Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another live stream vid. It's been a while since I've done this one. So thought I'd go ahead and add my 2 cents into the fight that took place, the fights, I should say, fight cards that I should say took place over the weekend. We're gonna go over that, and I'm also gonna offer my 2 cents on the Daniel Kinahan situation, which many of you should have known by now, whereas I didn't see so many uploaders talk about this. Whereas Daniel Kinahan has been recently sanctioned by the U.S. government in cooperation with the UK, Ireland governments, and I believe also the Colombian government as well, along with the Spanish government. So I'll get into that momentarily, but I want to go ahead and lead off this podcast, this live stream with the going over the fight cards that took place over the weekend. So first things first, I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't really watch much of the other cards, only other than the main event on the Zone, which is Conor Benn versus Grant Herden. I know BT Sport had a card, but not too much going on over there. Uh, I believe also Scott Boxer had a card. They had an event, but not too much over there. But I really want to focus more on the PBC undercards and the main event, which is obviously Earl Spence versus Ordenas Ugas. But let me just start off with the not Nigel Ben. I'm sorry, Nigel Ben's son, Conor Benn. Look, I'm not gonna go much into the Van Heerden fight because there wasn't really much to go over other than the fact he brutalized and stopped Dan Heerden in 2 rounds, I believe. So yeah, what can I say about Conor Benn? He did what he was supposed to do. Um, it's just that look, I really like the kid. I really like his enthusiasm. I really like the fact that he's got a lot of he's got a lot of he's got a lot of what's the word? Motivation. That's the word I want for. Enthusiasm, motivation. I see that from an up and coming and prospect of a fighter, but I just think it's time for Conor Benn to test himself against the top contenders. It's time, and I know why Eddie Hearn is doing what he's doing. Well, this is just my theory. The reason why he's moving him the way he's moving him is because he doesn't have much amateur pedigree. That's fine. I understand that, but the fact is that Eddie Hearn is being much of a bit of being a hypocrite here because he criticized the way Deontay Wilder was moved when he was coming up the ranks, and rightfully so. Deontay Wilder need to be criticized for that because he was fighting other Buckhands and former fringe contenders or champions whatnot who weren't even fighting who weren't much of a contention on world level anymore. He was doing that in like 28 or 30 plus fights, but Conor Benn is going that trajectory, and yet Eddie Hearn is the one who's advising him to go this way because I think, and this is my opinion, I think he realizes that Anthony Joshua doesn't have much time. So he's looking for another golden goose, and Conor Benn is the it guy. Now, he's looking at it and say, well, I can't risk Conor Benn the way I risk Joshua. At least Joshua was able to overcome those situations, but Conor Benn is no Anthony Joshua. So I'm going to move him slowly. And then I'm going to put him in there when it's time, against those guys when the time is right. Now, if you look at the landscape of the welterweight division, it's stacked. It's deep. You got Stayonis versus Butiev, which they fought on the Errol Spence undercard yesterday, and Ugas undercard, which was a great fight, by the way. And you have Jerron Boots Ennis, you have Virgil Ortiz. Of course, you have Terrence Crawford, Earl Spence, and Ordenas Ugas. Then you have who else is there? Um, yeah, let me look at the welterweight rankings. I know there's more fighters there. Let me go ahead and take a look. Give me a second here. I just want to look at the rankings so that way I can further establish my point. Guys. Let me bring up the welterweight rankings. Let's see. Come on, come on, come on. Let's see. All right. So on the welterweights, we have. Huh, interesting. They have the Ring magazine has Terrence Crawford rated the number one welterweight in the world. Well, Errol Spence pretty much is overtaking that position now from yesterday's win, but I'll get into that shortly. So you have Stanionis. Do you have again? Did I mention Butia, who they fought on the undercard yesterday? David Avanesian, and you have that's it. Those are all the welterweights, and of course you have Keith Thurman. Now, I'm gonna say this right here: Conor Benn is rated in the top 10 out of all those at welterweights that I've just named. Can he beat either one of those guys right now? I don't know, but the way the opposition he's been fighting, I just don't see it at this point. And I can understand why Eddie Hearn's doing what he's doing, but at the same time, this is what boxing is all about. It's all about testing your fighter, taking him to the limits. I mean, testing him because this boxing is all about risks, right? So how long are you gonna hold out Conor Benn, man? From fighting these fringe contenders because he's 20 fights in already, and I think it's time for him to step it up. But if you're gonna continue to do this for the next 10 fights, then I don't know, man. I really doubt that the British public is gonna be receptive to that. I really don't because, as I recall, this is the same pressure that Anthony Yard went through. And to be fair, Anthony Yard, was going through a lot of pressure with the 15 or 14, 15, 16 pro fights. Understandably, yes. Then he stepped up and fought Kovalev. Many felt that was a step bridge too far at that time. But hey, even though he had 1 or 2, 3 successful rounds, but that one of those his main successful rounds, he almost knocked Kovalev out. So, but Yard learned from that loss, and he's progressed to be a better fighter. Now he's in line for another title shot against the winner of Joe Smith versus Arthur Berterviev, which is a light heavyweight fight that I'm looking forward to. That's going to be a slugfest. I'll tell you that right now. Wilder had 50 fights. Well, here's my point, Olive. What's up, man? My point is that Wilder had 30 fights in before he stepped up his level of competition. And to be fair, Wilder's had 44 fights, not 50. And Conor Benn's had 20 fights already. He's being moved the same way Deontay Wilder's been moved, have moved over in the past. And yeah, he's been criticized for that. Deontay Wilder, it is. But it seems like some people are okay with the way Conor Benn has been moving. I'm gonna keep it fair. I'm a Deontay Wilder fan, but I didn't like the way he was moved up to 30 fights. I didn't like it, and neither I'm not liking the fact that Conor Benn is moving the way it is. Yeah, I understand that he hasn't had much amateur experience. I get it, but at the same time, when you're in the pro ranks, the expectations on the standards are a lot higher than it is in the amateur ranks. So again, I think Eddie Hearn's worried about the fact that he needs another cash cow, and he wants to build that cash cow before Anthony Joshua hits the exits. Not saying that Anthony Joshua is going to retire right away, but the way the way he's been behaving lately, and the fact that his last fight against Alexander Usyk, the way how he got dominated in that fight, who knows? I don't, me personally, even though Alexander Usyk himself may not be, he's lost like 10, 15 pounds due to the stress of the war in his own country in Ukraine, I still don't see Joshua winning that fight. I just don't see it. I'm just being honest. The rematch that is, I just don't see it. So, yeah. But anyhow, yeah. What's up, Dwayne? Dwayne says that Ben is a Euro level. If he fights a top welterweight, he will look like Lloyd Heineken. Hey, you know what? I don't know if that's a fair comparison because Lisa Lloyd Heineken has beat better world opposition opponents than Conor Benn at this point. So I'm not sure that's a fair comparison, but yeah, Olaf says that Heyman has all the welterweights. I don't think Hearn has any aside from Ben, right? Yeah, that is a good point. He has all the welterweights with the exception of Virgil Ortiz. Yeah, he has everybody except for them. Yeah, that's amazing. All the welterweights in the top 10, like 8 out of 10 of them, or actually 7 out of 10 of them are managed by Al Heyman. David Aneesian, I don't think he's managed by Al Heyman. I think he's with Probellum or Boxer, one of those two. No, he's with Boxer, but he may be advised by Daniel Kinahan, which I'll get to shortly. So yeah, Al Heyman controls like maybe 80 or 75% of the welterweight block, but that doesn't mean Conor Benn cannot make a fight with David Avanesian or Virgil Ortiz. I mean, why is he fighting with either one of them? We've been talking about that Avanesian fight for a long time, and yet they're still stalling on that. Eddie Hearn, that is. He still doesn't want that fight for some reason. And if you ask me, I could see why, because I'm playing devil's advocate. I could see why he doesn't want that fight for Ben right now, because if he beats because Ebenezian, I don't think Conor Benn's going to win that fight. I'm just being honest. I don't think he can. But hey, test him out, see how well he can do. Hey, what up? Hey, what up, Undultra, man? It's been a long time, man. He says that, hey, Dan, yes, you're right. There's no way Ben would have beaten anyone close to Donald Curry's level. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not even close. Not even close. So, yeah, definitely, yeah. I'm glad you agree with me on that one, man. Olaf says that Ben could have been world level, but we need to see him to fight a top 15 guy. I mean, if they can get him in there with either any of those Russians like yesterday of Stenionius or Butiev, yeah, put him in there one of those guys. I know. I think who I forgot who won that fight yesterday. Let me take a look. I'll forgive me. I didn't see the entire undercard of Errol Spence and Ugas. I missed that Stanionis and Butiev fight. I really should have done that. Should have took it. I heard it was a great fight, but let me see. Uh, oh, by the way, speaking of Butiev, he is the IBF mandatory. No, he's the WBA mandatory, I believe. If I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Noel, he lost his Saniones, so obviously he's no longer the WBA mandatory. That will be now Butiev. So yeah, that would be an interesting fight for Errol Spence. I think Errol Spence should win that one. Not saying it would be no problems, but I think he should win it. But other than that, yeah, I don't see why not. Why not Conor Benn fight either Stanionius or Butiev, one of those two. It'd be a great brawl, but I think those two, Stanionius and Butiev, are obviously they're a bit more experienced because they've had very good amateur careers from my understanding. So uh, I don't know, man. Conor Benn, I think because of the fact he does have leaks, he does have holes in his game. He's not defensively good. I'll be honest. I like it. Conor Benn, he's got great offensive prowess. His output is good, but his defense is bad, man, horribly bad. And his chin, look, he's been knocked down several times against the journeyman Cedric Pinu, but he got back up and he fought hard to draw in their first fight and take him out in the second fight. But I will say though, Conor Benn's chin is a big question. It's kind of like his father, Nigel Benn. Nigel Benn was a tough fighter in his time, but his chin has always been a question to some people. But to be fair though, I will say this. I don't know why people question his chin because he took some big shots from Gerald McClellan and came back and won that fight. But I have my my thoughts and my opinion about that fight, the way it played down. That's just one of those fights I refuse to watch, man, because I watched it many times and I don't want to watch it anymore because it's just horrific how that fight ended. And obviously, he destroyed not only ended Gerald McClellan's career, but he became partially impaired after that. So, and it took a long time for him to recover some of his senses, but he still is somewhat a little bit impaired after that fight. So, yeah. Um, yeah, it was a great ball. I heard it was a great brawl. I need to watch that fight, man. I need to catch it somewhere. That's just one of the few fights on the one of the fights I didn't watch on the undercard. So, last night's Errol Spence Ugas fight card. Let me see here. Doltra says that yes, Ivanez beat Josh Kelly. I don't think they want to risk betting against him too. Yeah, they're not trying to risk him right now because Ivanez is in top form at this point. So I think they're probably waiting for him to slow down. That's from the looks of it, and then they'll fight him eventually. So yeah. All right. Moving along here. Let's see. Uh, let's see. Moving along here. Let's talk about the fight card yesterday. Now, the one of the cards I did see was Jose Venezuela versus Francisco Vargas. Now, we all agree that Francisco Vargas is a shot fighter. He's definitely a shell of himself. He's not really a world level fighter anymore. He's been through too many wars, and it's really taken a toll on him. So, Obviously, he was brought in as an opponent for Venezuela, who's a up-and-coming prospect. And, some would argue that maybe Venezuela shouldn't take a fight like that at this stage of his career while he's still building up his resume when he's building up his resume and moving through the ranks. But I will say this, though. I expected Vargas to lose that fight by stoppage in the later rounds, but what I did not expect is for him to be knocked out in the first round. I did not see that one coming. And wow, I mean that was a spectacular knockout. It was a very good short left hook that Vargas didn't see coming, and it just put him on a back, and he was gone. Yes, he was moving a little bit, but he wasn't going to make that count. And the referee made the right choice to stop that fight soon as he went landing hard on the floor after that left hook landed right on the chin. Not on top of the head where he could have gotten up and gathered his senses, but it was right on the chin. And he was gone. So, good, very good step up win, big test for Venezuela. So, where does he go from here? We'll have to see. Now, the next fight on the card after that one was Isaac Cruz versus Yorgos Gamboa. I do have to say this though. What's striking to me is that Gamboa, I don't know what it is. I know in the past he just couldn't take punches in his prime, but it seems like when he's gotten older, he's been able to. It seems I don't know, man. To me, his durability is improved, even when he is in his 40s now. So I don't know, but let me just say this though: the fact is that Isaac Cruz, he is. There's a reason why they call him the pit bull. Because the guy, man, every punch that he throws is with intentions, man. He's there to knock you out. He ain't there to box you. He ain't there to slow down the pace. He's there to fucking take your head off. Now, the thing about Isaac Cruz is that he's not a guy that is going to throw a lot of punches out of throw a lot of shots just to throw them. He's just throwing them with bad intentions, and he fights in spurts a little bit. Now, he can control those spurts a little bit better, but I will say, though, is that he's a very difficult guy to hit. Now, I'm not saying he's got the best defense in the world, but when a guy's like that crouching and he keeps his chin tucked in all the time at his chest, and he's small, height wise, that's a difficult guy to hit. And Tank Davis can attest to that himself. So it's like, man, it's like he's got a good, he's okay. He's got basic defensive fundamentals, great high guard, knows how to cover his punches when on a block shot, block punches from the midsection very well. But obviously he's a short guy, so he'd be able to do that. And the thing is too is like, man, it's like that pressure, man. You can't out pressure a guy like that. You just can't do it. Tank can't even do it because Tank Davis is so used to bullying guys in his fights, but he couldn't do it against Isaac Cruz. But anyway, this is not really about Tank. This is more about the way he destroyed Gamboa. Now, Gamboa he got knocked down twice before he got stopped, and I think it was a sixth round. But I will say this, though. Yes, he fought, he tried to fight off Isaac Cruz's pressure and his relentlessness, but his corner should have stopped that fight after the fourth or fifth round, man. This is no way they should have let him go back out there and fight, even though he was just, when he was not in his senses, he didn't know where he was technically after suffering those big shots and those knockdowns. They shouldn't even have sent him out there. I know some people want to say, well, the referee should have stopped the fight. Well, he did stop the fight after the third knockdown, but at the same time, the corner needs to look after their fighter. They need to look after their fighter. They didn't do that, and I'm afraid to say this. I think that's the last we've seen. Maybe that's probably the last time we've seen Yorgos Gamboa in the ring. I think that's the last time we'll see him in the ring. Hey, shout out to Chicano Prophet, man. Shout out to Chicano. Spence is gonna be Crawford's gonna beat Spence. Yeah, I'm gonna get into that right in a moment, man. Will Gamboa retire, please? Yeah, man. I think Gamboa needs to step away, man, because that was just a beating he took from Isaac Cruz. If anything, I think Cruz just pretty much gave him a retirement, sent him a retirement package. I mean, that's it for him. I mean, seriously. I don't think he needs to go on anymore. If he needs some money, okay, but at the same time, is it really risk your health getting knocked out like this and taking punishment at the age of 40? Nah, dude, nah. I think Cruz give major problems to Haney and Ryan Garcia. He forces his pace, and those guys set their own pace. Yeah, it's funny that speaking of Ryan Garcia is talking about he doesn't do call outs anymore. He's gonna let his management handle things going forward. Yeah, okay. And in fact, there was I know Isaac Cruz and Ryan Garcia was going at it momentarily on social media, and they asked him after the fight, Isaac Cruz, about what he wants to do next, Ryan Garcia, whatnot. And he says, okay, he said that, well, I'm fighting at my pace right now. I fight on my own terms. So Ryan Garcia can get it, but he's going to out until I say so. I think something to that effect. But anyhow, it is what it is on that. So yeah, very great performance by Isaac Cruz. Even though he's expected to do that, but there was still pressure on him given the fact the way he performed against Tate Davis. So um, I could tell you one thing, man. We may see another big player. We may see another big player in the lightweight division, man. Watch out for Isaac Cruz. That is a dangerous fighter. I'll tell you that right now. He's hungry. He's young. He's in his prime. He can punch. He's got pretty good defensive fundamentals. The one thing I would say though is that he needs to work on cutting off the ring a little bit better. He did improve that against Gamboa last night, but just a little bit. He needs to work on that a little bit more as far as cutting off the ring. So yeah. Dwayne says that, hey, Conor Benn better stay away from Kell Brook. Yeah, dude, Conor Benn. If anything, yeah, I think this is one of the reasons why Eddie Hearn is trying to get Kell Brook to come back onto his side so he can set up that particular fight. But I don't know, man. It definitely been a good fight. I won't deny that. But Conor Benn against Kell Brook, I don't think Kell Brook. Not sorry, Kell Brook. I don't think Conor Benn could win that fight. I really don't. He may have a better shot than fighting those other top welterweights, but I still don't see him winning that fight. But again, though, I know people are saying, well, you don't see him winning other fights. How can you ask him to step up? Because, well, this is what boxing's all about. Proving me wrong, right? I'm not always right on my assessment on prediction on fights, but prove me wrong. You're fighting on world level now. Your expectations are high, so we need you to step it up. So, yeah. Now moving on to the main event. Errol Spence versus Ordenas Ugas. First round was nip and tuck. It was a fill-out process between both fighters. Both fighters were landing some good body shots. They were establishing their distance and their ring generalship. So if anything, I gave that first round to Ordenas Ugas because I thought he had better of the he had a better start than Spence, even though he was a slow, he's a notoriously slow starter. But he was landing some very good body shots, particularly in the mid and in the end of that first round. So I gave that to him. The second round, Errol Spence definitely won it because he had more of the higher output, the work rate. He was punching nonstop, and Ugas was just looking for 1 or 2 or 3 counters. And that's the thing about Ugas. He's not a high value puncher. And what he does is that he looks for his spots, which is good. It's admirable. But when you fight a guy that has high value, then you're not going to you're not going to you're not going to be quite as successful. But I'll get into that shortly. So yeah, he definitely lost the second round. Third round, I gave to Ugas. I thought he increased his output. He started to feel, he's starting to understand his timing. He's starting to see the angles of the punches that Spence was throwing at. So he started to figure him out a little bit. So I gave him in the third round. The fourth round was a very relatively close round. So I edged that to Spence. Now, the fifth round, definitely Ugas. Ugas, rocked and hurt Spence in that round. And this is the one thing I'm very upset about this because he had him hurt. He had him railing to the ropes. And that's a rarity we've seen from Errol Spence. I know his mouthpiece came out after that. Ugas threw an uppercut in the inside that knocked out his mouthpiece. And then he turned around and Errol Spence turned around and looked at the ref. And then Ugas caught him with the 1-2 and knocked him back into the ropes. The thing is, Ugas stopped too when he pushed Spence back to the ropes with that 1-2, and he didn't jump on him. I'm like, wait a minute, you got the guy hurt. You need to jump on him. I was yelling at the screen last night. Jump on him, man. Jesus Christ. You need to jump on him. But the thing is, Ugas didn't do it. He didn't jump on him. I gave him that round. He won that round. You can argue it was a 10-8 round, but seriously, man. He had him railing. He could have got him out in that round because there was still a lot of time left, and Ugas didn't do that. If he looked at this fight, if he looked back at this, he's gonna regret that mistake. Obviously, he's gonna regret it. He's like, man, I should have jumped on him when I had him hurt. He should have jumped on him. So, but he didn't do it. I understand you didn't want to take any chances because a guy can still, hit you with a good counter by leaving yourself open. I think that's the mistake he made against Ramos in their fight. That's probably what is lingering on his mind. But at the same time, I thought Errol Spence was gone. He was almost out on his feet after that 1-2 came in, man. And Ugas should have jumped on him. Then that, obviously that was a mistake he's going to have to live with for the rest of his life. But anyhow, definitely gave that round to Ugas because that was a dominating round. Sixth round, Errol Spence came back. He realized that Ugas is a dangerous fighter, so he had to get him out of there. So that's why he was putting the pressure on him. I mean, those body shots was brutal that he threw on Ugas. Brutal body shots. And Ugas did start to come back with some couple counters, for, 2-punch combinations, 3 punches, but they weren't really effective after that fifth or sixth round. I think Ugas, after that, Errol Spence realizes that he had to get this guy out of there. But the one thing I would say, though, is that I'm impressed with Errol Spence is that his durability. He has very good recuperative powers. I mean, he recovered pretty well after that fifth round. Very well. And you would think that after that car accident, his punch resistance won't be the same. But hey, man, my hat's off to Errol Spence. He came back. He dominated the last 4 rounds. He busted up Ugas' eye. And obviously the fight was stopped because Ugas' right eye was bad. It was grotesquely bad, dude. And I don't blame him for stopping it. I mean, he wasn't going to win it anyway, unless he was going to, he had to find a knockout, but he wasn't going to knock out Errol Spence. The body shots were taking a toll on him, and he was reeling from those body shots too. So I just think that at this time, yeah, it was a right call. No complaints there. Incredible performance by Errol Spence. He battled back battled back from diversity. He shows he still got it on world level. Come on, Dark Art. He was kind of out on his feet, man. You didn't see him stumbling and reeling back in that fifth round. Come on, dude. He was out, dude. Ugas didn't capitalize on it. Come on, man. Even if some of his supporters even said it. Errol Spence supporters even said it. So it ain't just me, bro. It ain't no capping. Man, come on, just think about it. Look, Errol Spence he's not invincible, man. You can see he can get hurt. You can see it. He got hurt last night and he came back. Why do you think he pressed the action after he got hurt in that fifth round? Come on. All right. But shout out to Dark Art there, man. Long time no here. Yeah, what up, Boxing Lounge? What's up, man? But anyhow, great performance. Jim Gray put him on the spot. What do you like to do next? Terence Crawford is next. Hey, you know what? I like to say this. I'm glad that he said Terence Crawford's name because I was hoping he'd say it. And Terence Crawford responded to that quickly on his social media. He said, okay, bro, you called me out. Let's do it. No excuses. No excuses. Let's get it on. And I want to talk about that, man. There's no other fight that Errol Spence should take right now. He's got to go to Terence Crawford. He's got to go to that fight, man. I don't want to see. Look, I'm a favor of guys coming to terms on interim fights, but at this point, I don't think we should get an interim fight between these two because I think it's been stalled long enough. This fight's been what I would say 4 or 5 years in the making. I think it's time for us to get that fight. There's no other place for Terence Crawford to go. I don't want to see any sanctioned bodies ordering mandatories, which could happen. I'm going to be honest about that, especially the IBF, because the mandatory for the IBF, Errol Spence hasn't had an IBF mandatory defense in a long time. So I'm afraid that may be called. And who is the IBF mandatory anyway? Let me go back and I'm going to go and check. Is it? Oh, yeah, it was Jaron Ennis. Oh, boy. We got to talk about that one. The IBF could call Jaron Ennis versus Errol Spence. Who y'all got in that fight? I'm gonna put that in the banner. I should put up a poll, but let's talk about that. Crawford next or Jaron Ennis? Because he's the IBF mandatory, and the IBF could be calling for that mandatory to take place. So let me see if I could put up a poll on that. But anyhow, before we get into Jaron Ennis, the IBF could call that mandatory, and Jaron Ennis is a hungry fighter, boy. I think that is going to be a very difficult and tricky fight for Errol Spence. Very difficult fight. So if he can't get Terence Crawford next, I pray to God that he does, then Jaron Ennis might be the next guy. And, man, look, that's probably a 50-50 fight. But you know what? If you favor Spence because he has more experience, then so be it. Maybe 55-45 or 60-40. I just don't. That is gonna be. That's that's gonna be Errol Spence really gonna have a tough time. You thought Ugas is gonna be a tough fight, which it was in the first 5 rounds, but dude, Jaron Ennis, man, dude, he southpaw who could punch. who's got great, great foot speed. Got, he could punch in many different angles. Oh man, and he's a big welterweight himself too. So, oh man, that's gonna be a tough one. So, if not Terence Crawford, what do we think about Jaron Ennis versus Errol Spence? I'm gonna put that in the banner. Oh man, that right there is gonna be tough. So let me see here. Let me go into the comments. What up, Battle? Battle Rifle, what's happening? Long time no here. Uh let's see. And Dwayne says that, hey, the ropes held up Spence. Crawford would have stopped Spence at that moment. Yeah, I think Crawford would have jumped on him right away. He wouldn't let him off the hook. Ugas let him off the hook right there, man. Like I said, though, he's going to look back at that. And he's going to regret that for the rest of his life. You know what I mean? So he could have got Spence out of there at that moment. He could have. And let's not start, people want to talk about capping, man. Let's be real. The man was hurt and was railing on the ropes, and he was almost out on his feet right there. Let's be real. Yeah, he covered quickly, but at the same time, that doesn't mean you're not out on your feet. He was out on his feet for a moment. He was. It was like Adulterer was like, it was almost like Ugas himself was surprised that he rocked Spence. That moment was a hesitation with Han. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That hesitation, that pause right there. He's gonna look back at that and regret that, man, because he should have chumped on him right there when he had him right there, had him railing. So yeah. Brooke got time versus Crawford, so he hasn't shown any chinniness, and that's cap. Conor Benn has fought no punchers. Well, hey, that's true. Yeah. Hey Tyrese, what's happening, man? He says that hey, it looks like Ugas looked like Rigo versus Lomachenko, just waiting for a perfect counter. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what it was for the duration of that fight. But to be fair though, Ugas has a more of a higher output than Rigondeaux and Rigondeaux, I should say. And he's not really a big volume puncher himself. So what does that tell you? But the thing is that you're looking for a 3-4 punch counter combinations. That's not going to work against Errol Spence. You're going to have to increase your output against him to get his respect. And to be fair, Ugas did get his respect in the first 4 or 5 rounds, especially in the 5th round when he hurt him. But after that, Errol Spence realized that he's in there against a guy who can actually hurt him, who can actually punch pretty good. I'm not saying he's a big puncher. He can punch pretty well. So that's why he had to up the output and get him out of there and smother him. That's what he had to do. But I'm not sure if he could do that against Terence Crawford. I don't think he could do it. Let's see. What up, young Merv? Salute, brother. Salute. Let's see. He had lapses in judgment, paid for it. To say he was out on his feet is a bit much. He recovered quick, went right back, and busted up Ugas. Spence Crawford needs to happen next. Let me say this, Dark Art. I agree. That has to happen next. But let's just say this. It is your opinion. It's my opinion. But the way I saw it, the way he was stumbling after that 1-2 and went back to the ropes, that told me he was about gone right there. Ugas didn't jump on him. And he was still hurt until after the end of the round. He was backing off from Ugas. So what does that tell you? But yeah, credit to him. He recovered quickly after the 5th round. He got the break. But you do realize he got that break because the referee stopped the fight in the middle of the round to get him to get back his mouthpiece. We ain't talking about that one, right? Let's talk about that. Why did Lawrence Cole stop the action just so he can give him his mouthpiece when Ugas was putting it on him? Why did he stop the action? That right there is something we need to take into account himself. Yeah, again, Ugas should have jumped on him. But to be fair, though, Lawrence Cole stopped the action when Ugas was working on him after he hurt him, and to give him back his mouthpiece, gave him time to recover. That right there, no way. I don't know why Lawrence Cole was assigned to this, man, because I knew there was going to be some funny shit with the referee in that situation. Let me be fair, though. He wasn't the deciding factor of the fight, but at the same time, that very moment, he gave Spence some time to recover after that. He did. So, yeah. Dan, it would be like Wilder or Fury winner will get Boots Ennis. I don't know about that, but all right. Adulter says I'm a Philly guy, but I love Spence. Boots is too bigger and he's too diverse for Spence. I love Spence, but I'm a Philly guy. Boots is too big. He's bigger and he's too big and he's way too diverse for Spence. You know what? It's a great fight. It'll be a very great fight. I actually would like to see that one. I'm like I said though, if we can't get Crawford versus Spence, which that has to be the fight next, then Jerron Boots Ennis need to get a shot. I can live with that. I can live with that. And IBF, like I said though, the IBF will be calling that mandatory. I have a feeling that's coming. They will call it. Earl Spence has been consistently busting up faces, but unfortunately, he will get starched by Crawford. Yeah, I like Earl, man, but I just don't see how he wins that fight. He'll give Crawford some problems early, but after that, Crawford will figure him out. He's gonna confuse him with the switch hitting. So I don't see how he wins that fight. I really don't. The only chance he's got pretty much to knock Terrence Crawford out, he's gonna try to stop him in the first 4 or 5 rounds. But after that, I don't know. I don't know. They need Boots versus Keith Thurman on the undercard. Boots by body shot. Yeah, you know what? At this moment, if you put Boots in there against Keith Thurman, I'm in favor of Boots to win that fight. I really will favor him to win that fight because Thurman is not the same fighter anymore. He's pretty much out of his prime. He's just looking for big money fights going forward, and I don't think he really cares about being a top title contention anymore. I really don't think he does. So that's just my take on it. Ugas hit him with a cheap shot, and he was looking for his mouthpiece. So what are you saying? How you saying Ugas? Dude, how was a cheap shot? The referee didn't stop the action. Errol Spence, that's his problem. If he's saying that, well, I should have protected myself because I was looking at the referee to give me my mouthpiece, that's on Spence, not on Ugas. The referee didn't stop the action. So how can you say that's a cheap shot? Or at the time, that is, I should say. I don't get it. Cole stopped the action twice when Spencer had Ugas on Queer Street to get his eye checked. Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing. When you see eye that's grotesquely bad, and they were in the clinches, you gotta have the doctor look at that. So that right there, I can understand. But when you have a guy who's stumbling all over the place in the fifth round, and Ugas is trying to work on him, the next you know there was no clinches in that moment. Then you just halted the fight just to get his mouthpiece. Then that's an issue. I got a problem with that. So that's two different scenarios. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm gonna send you the link, man. I'm gonna send you guys a link. Yeah, the referee stopped the action all night. He stopped it twice when Spence was hurting Ugas as well. Tell it both sides, fan. Yeah. Look. Like I said though, one of the instances he did, and I didn't like it. But the other instance where Ugas' eye was busted up pretty badly, and it was in the clinch, and then he braked it, and then he went and then he stopped the fight momentarily to get Ugas look at the doctor look at Ugas' eye. That was the right thing to do. I got no gripe there. But the gripe I do have is the one instance he did stop Spence from working on Ugas in one instance, and then the other gripe, especially in the fifth round when he stopped it, so he could give Spence time to recover to get his mouthpiece. I didn't that right there. I got a problem with in those both instances. Caldwell says that Spence looked vulnerable with Ugas. Yeah, he looked pretty vulnerable, but I'm gonna just be fair to Earl. Earl recovered very well. He put it on him, and after the fifth round, dominated him and stopped him. So I gotta give Earl a lot of credit for that, man, because when he got hurt like that, I don't know how he was gonna recover. And he proved everybody that he's got great durability after that horrific car accident that should have left him paralyzed. I'll be honest with you. He proved everybody wrong last night. So we got to get my hats off to him. Spence fanboys should call out cheap shots. I mean, look, man, look, that they're entitled to their opinion, but to your point though, it wasn't a cheap stop. It wasn't a cheap shot. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Yeah, let me go ahead and put in the link so anybody can jump on. Let's see here. Post also stopped the action when Spence was hurt. Yeah, I already pointed that out. Shout out to Fight Doctor in the chat. Boots is clearly way better than anyone in the welterweight division. Well, Terrence Crawford, I don't think so. He is pound for pound number one based on the eye test, but that's why he won't get a title shot. While the old guys on top still have market value. Hey, that's an interesting point. But the IBF are strict with their mandatory, so they will call that mandatory. I have a feeling that's going to happen. I have a major feeling that's going to happen. The referee was terrible. The referee was terrible. Let's get the smoke. What's happening? All right, so let's see here. Referee was terrible. Yeah, that's Lawrence Cole. No surprise there. Ref changed the momentum of the fight when he interfered while Spence was hurt. Technically, he did, but he also did it once with when Spence had Ugas hurt. So I gotta keep it buck on both sides. Let's see. We got the guys on here. Dwayne and I got Smoke. What's happening, fellas?
Oh, what's up, man? Happy Easter.
Likewise, happy Easter to you too, man. I'm not sure if it's Easter Sunday over in the UK. What's up, Dwayne? Dwayne? Oh, he's on mute. Anyway, yeah, man. So, what do you think, man? What do you think about Spence's performance yesterday?
I thought it was a throwback. I thought after the Garcia fight, the Danny fight,
Yeah,
that we're going to be seeing a different kind of Spence, where he boxed and just took what the opposition gave him.
right.
But nah, he went in, he put it all on the line and took that victory from Ugas. Like he wasn't just waiting around. He wouldn't just try to outbox the dude. He just went right in that dude's kitchen and went to work. It was a buzzsaw. I thought it was an
Yeah,
excellent performance. When you're out of the ring for that long, you're in gym shape, but you're not in fight shape. So, and I figured I'd see it early, and I did see it early. He was
yeah,
boxing kind of, in the first couple of rounds, he was boxing nice, but then he settled down and just went, started sucking on Ugas' titty and just he went to work. He was right there, to face his head, put his head in his chest. That was it.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, man, I thought the refereeing, I thought they should have been ruled a knockdown because the ropes did hold him up.
yeah.
Um, and it was a little bit weird when he did the break in the action. I felt like it was a little bit early, but I don't think either one of those things affected the outcome of the fight for real.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's fair enough assessment, but the one thing there's been a controversy here because of the fifth, after in the fifth round where Ugas had Spence really hurt badly, especially that 1-2 combination where some people are calling it a cheap shot. I don't see why, because Lawrence Cole didn't halt the action. Earl Spence just looked at him like, "Oh, where's my mouthpiece?" And then you got caught. You got to protect yourself at all times, bro, in that situation. So, and
And he said, like in the post fight, that he heard stop. I saw Cole try to get in between him. I think Cole did get in between him, but it is protect yourself at all times. He did say that also. He's like, it was a rookie mistake on my part. He took responsibility. He didn't say Ugas cheap shotted him. The ref probably did try to get in front of him and probably did say stop, but that doesn't mean that you don't protect yourself.
exactly. Exactly. But the one thing I would say though, the one like a couple of criticism, I mean Lawrence Cole is a terrible referee. I mean, let's be honest, he is. And the thing is too, the one thing I would say though is that when Ugas was actually trying to work on Spence when he had him hurt in that round, Cole just stopped the fight just momentarily just to get his mouthpiece. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue to me. All right, so I
Yeah,
felt like there was some momentum. Like Ugas had the momentum,
yeah,
but I thought Errol had already recovered. And
okay,
the book that I have on Ugas is I don't think the guy throws enough punches. I've been thinking this forever. Like the best output I saw him in my mind is like in the Omar Figueroa fight, but
yeah,
in the Porter fight, I felt like he left his opportunity right there in the ring because his unwillingness to let his hands go.
yeah,
And I think that the same thing just bit him in the butt right there. Like the moment had passed. Like if you think you got your guy's hurt, you're supposed to jump on his ass and throw a ton of
oh,
punches, not
absolutely,
just stand there looking at
absolutely,
him.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a mistake he's gonna have to live with for the rest of his life, man. You when you got a guy hurt like that, you gotta jump on him. Don't look at the referee. I mean, he wasn't looking at the referee; he just looked at him. Like one of the commenters was like, he probably was surprised because he hurt him. And he hesitated. I'm like, well, that's a good point, but he shouldn't hesitate in a situation like that. You got to jump on the guy.
I'm not
But
even talking about that. I'm talking about after he landed the shots. Like before, the reason why the referee it felt like he could break it in that point is because no punches were being thrown. Even though
yeah,
like Ugas was stalking him like with his feet, he wasn't doing shit with his hands.
yeah, Yeah, shout out to Bruce Goes in the chat, man. But yeah, that's an interesting point, man. That's an interesting point. So, but like I said, though, credit to Spence, though, he recovered very well. He dominated after the fifth round, and he took over the fight from that point and stopped it. You know, obviously the doctor stopped the fight because the eye was bad by Ugas. Ugas had a terrible eye injury. That eye was horribly bad, but the right eye, that is. So, uh, where do we go from here, man? Do you think we're gonna get Spence versus Crawford next?
I don't see why not. This is the same thing they've been talking about since before Bud got into the division. Like if you understand Bomac, like they've been always talking about Spence and Spence and Bud being for undisputed.
Yeah.
They're gonna collect the belts, get the popcorn ready. This is they don't dislike each other. There's no like personal beef there. They just happen to be in each other's way. So they just want to make as much money as they can if they got to fight each other because they don't really dislike one another. So I never expected this fight to be anything less than undisputed, and that's what we got.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You know, I know some people are arguing that Spence should have been Ugas should have been credited knockdown because it held him up. You know what? I think there's needs to be a uniform rule on that because it seems like it's under the referee's discretion to decide whether that's a knockdown or not. I think the referee should not have that discretion. I think it should be a uniform rule that if the ropes are holding you up after you stumble to the ropes like that, then that should be credited a knockdown. No ands if buts about it. But I mean, you can argue that, so I'm not going to argue against that. But definitely, yeah, if anything, that should have been ruled a knockdown. But it is what it is. Anyhow, I just thought about something. If we don't get Spence versus Crawford, because Steven Espinoza was asked about this, and shout out to Challenge Biz, by the way, who did a brief interview with Steven Espinoza. He asked him about how we can get that fight done. Are us fans going to get reinsurances about that fight? How are we going to get it done? Steven Espinoza said that, well, we'll get it done on the condition that Daniel Kinahan and MTK doesn't get involved. Period. We're not doing business with anyone that's involved with them. So that's a telltale sign right there. So if we don't get Spence versus Crawford, because there's still a good possibility that we might not get that fight next, IBF got that mandatory they're going to call, and that mandatory challenger is Jerron Boots Ennis. How do you see that fight playing out if we don't get Spence versus Crawford? Spence versus Boots, that is.
You saying Stanionis versus Boots?
No. Boots is the IBF mandatory. In the
IBF,
IBF,
all right. You're saying Boots versus Spence.
Yeah. How do you see that one playing out?
I think Spence is going to beat the entire dog shit out of Boots. I don't think Boots is ready for it. Like he doesn't have a gear. Like his jab, like he makes the wrong adjustments. He does leaping left hooks. He doesn't work behind the jab. The dude's just too green. I think he's an excellent fighter and all that shit, but he's a speed bump right now. Like that. I mean, he can talk a good game. He can fight his ass off for real. He's just not ready.
All right, fair enough. But I think I beg to differ on that one. I think he's ready, but I'm not saying he's going to win the fight.
I mean, he's not that far from Ayubov. Like even Chris Van Heerden, he was still doing like leaping left hooks. That Ayubov fight, I haven't seen a lot of progression since then. And I thought even though he whooped Ayubov's ass, I saw a whole lot of like just vulnerability and holes in his game. I don't see him like as the polished article right now. Like I think he has excellent physical attributes. He can if he's not going to surprise you with his speed, if he don't knock you out. Here's really the thing. He's looking. He's way too flashy. He likes his work too much. He likes to admire his work and hit you with something big, and he expects a big reaction from it. But if you don't have a big reaction from it, then what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point, but I know some people may beg to differ on that. But I want to get the other guys' opinion on it. What's up, Dwayne? What's up, Battle?
Yo,
what's happening?
What up, Dwayne? What up? Get this smoke. What up?
That's good.
What's up, y'all?
Dan.
So Dwayne, I know you got a lot of things to say here, man. What do you think about Spence's performance against Ugas, and what do you see Crawford versus Spence next? If not, then will we get Boots versus Spence? What do you think?
Well, I think we get, like I said, I think we get Spence versus Crawford, but I think it'll be a 2-fight deal, and then the winner, just like with Fury and Wilder, the winner will get the mandatory position. Whoever's the mandatory will get that fight after. But obviously, because Spence is talking about already moving up, he said, so if Crawford wins, I can see it most likely being Crawford. If Errol Spence wins, I just think he'll vacate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then but in terms of his performance, I don't know. Like I was impressed with it. I was more so impressed with his engine, if anything,
Right.
because he fights the same. He fights everyone the same way,
True.
and that's why I can't see him beating Crawford because he doesn't. The one thing that we've seen with Crawford, he has at least a plan A, B, or C in a fight. You know, uh, Errol Spence has only shown me that he fights one way,
Right.
and that one way is worked for him. So we don't know how he's going to fight against somebody who can take away probably his best way of winning.
You're right. Yeah,
Yeah, you understand?
that's a fair point. But I will say this though, I think in the first round or so, I did see that Errol Spence was trying to see if he could fight this guy at long range, but when he realized he couldn't do that because Ugas had the longer reach, he had to close the gap to even have to have a shot at beating him. I saw that in the first round. Then he adjusted in the second round to keep the fight at close range. So
Yeah, but Crawford's got longer reach than Spence.
that's true. That's true. I was going to say that. So he can't win
So
that
I
fight
mean,
from the outside. Yeah.
I can't see him winning that fight
But
unless
that's the adjustments though.
Terence
Like,
Crawford decides to say, "I'm going to fight you in the phone booth." Do you
Right.
understand? Like,
Right.
and but the one thing I will say is Terence Crawford has got that ability where he doesn't look like he packs a punch, but for some reason people can't jump on him. He has that Floyd effect where he hits you hard enough for you to think twice about going in there.
Yeah.
You understand? And
Yeah.
like we said with Ugas admires his work a lot.
Right.
When he hits you with a combination, then he will stare, and for about half the round, he'll just be covering up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. But I would say though, as far as adjustments concerned, like I said, there Earl can make a subtle adjustments. I'm not saying he can make big adjustments, but he can make subtle adjustments like he did against Ugas. I'll give credit when credit is due. He tried to fight him at long range in the first round and realized he couldn't do it then. So that's why he had to keep it up in close quarters. That's the only way he could beat him in close quarters. So, but to your point though, I will say this though. Terence Crawford is no Ordenas Ugas, or Ordenas Ugas is no Terence Crawford. So Crawford can fight you many different ways. He can fight you in the pocket. He can fight you at long range. He can give you angles. He throws way better combinations. He throws a lot of punches, and he's sneaky with his uppercut. And that's something that Terence Crawford doesn't get credit for, is those uppercuts in the inside. So that's a fight that, like you said, though, I just don't see how Earl can win that fight. Can he make it a difficult fight? Yeah, he can, but I just don't see how he can win it. I really don't.
So here's the thing for me, because I got Errol in that fight, and I've had Errol in that fight since 2017.
Okay.
This whole idea
boy.
about all these adjustments Terence Crawford makes, he makes one adjustment. He goes from orthodox to southpaw. That's his big adjustment. Outside of that, there's not like C and D plans and all this other stuff. And if this fight happens on the inside, then Terence Crawford is fighting the exact wrong fight. Like, if he's looking for uppercuts on the inside to win this whole thing, like,
yeah,
you're gonna get your ass. Like at this point, you're gonna be banking on Errol Spence not having punch resistance, because there's no way he's gonna get outworked on the inside. I don't see like if Errol Spence can take Terence Crawford's punch, I don't see how Terence Crawford wins this fight. I don't think he's gonna be on points. He just doesn't throw enough shots. He throws accurate shots. He throws hard shots. If he hurts Errol Spence, all right, cool. That's what's up. If he doesn't hurt Errol Spence to the point where his Errol Spence production drops off, then what is he going to do?
Well, look, let me just say this.
One last thing, Dan. One last thing.
Go ahead.
And it's the Errol punches are way straighter than Bud. Bud pretty much just throws looping shots. He's a hooker for at heart, and he's got those long arms, and so it behooves him to throw him wide like that. But we all know the straight shots gets to the target faster.
Okay, that's a fair point. But as far as Crawford doesn't make enough adjustments, I'm not sure. I disagree with that because, look, the one thing I would say is that Terence Crawford does have difficulty with fighters that are a little bit shorter than him. Yorgos Gamboa, for example. I know this fight was a long time ago, but we all remember in that first few rounds, Gamboa was outboxing Crawford at a distance. So when he realized he couldn't outbox this guy because he was a lot quicker than him, Terrence had to close the gap and fight him more in mid range and take away take away Gamboa's range and then close the gap against him. So that's what he was successful in doing in that particular fight. Then after that, but after that, there haven't been many fights where he had to make a lot of adjustments because he clearly dominates all his opponents. That's just the way Terrence is. It's like if you don't take him out of his element, then you're not going to see much adjustments from him. So, but at the same time, what's up, that guy? But I respect your opinion on that. If you got Earl winning that fight, then hey, I'm not going to disagree with that. But I just want to say that I'm just looking at both fighters' prowesses. I'm looking at their skill set between the two. The one thing I will say that Earl gets hit a lot, man. I'm not saying his defense is not good. It's not that bad either. It's just that he gets hit way too much for my liking. And the way he got hit against Ugas in that fifth round, man, I don't know, man. I really don't know if he can. I'm not saying this. He showed he's got durability. He still can take a punch. But how long can he do that? Because you'll be fighting by guys going to punch harder than Ugas. In my opinion, Crawford punches much harder than Ugas, much harder. And he's quicker than Ugas. He's faster feet than Ugas. Hold up, Battle. And he's got better defensive prowess than Ugas. So that's the one thing you got to take into account. But go ahead, Battle. You want to go ahead and say something?
Yeah. Am I delayed?
Well, kind of. Go ahead.
Well, I was trying to say, if y'all can hear me good, because I'm outside and it's a little windy over here.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So,
well, I can hear you.
So basically, I studied both of their styles extensively. Like in a sense, when I first looked at Errol, I felt like I already know what I see. I already know what type of fighter he is. He's shown me different things, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, you showed me different things, but it wasn't like a big gap from where I previously were when I predicted it first time. Give me one second. Okay,
right.
So basically,
all right, wait for
so basically what
real quickly. No, go ahead, man.
No, that was a light touch.
Yeah, so basically from what I've seen, he has a blocking style, and what he primarily benefits from as far as his style, what he likes to do, he likes to. I don't know if you guys just noticed what Errol's whole game plan is. Like he fights usually high guard. He gets the jabs off a couple of times. He likes to body jab. He trained in the Mayweather gym. That's what they like to do. Eventually, if he's gonna throw power punches, what he likes to do is he throws his power punches. He smothers you, and then I noticed this with some pressure fighters. The way he almost, in a sense, ensures that he has like security behind his punches. Hold up.
Yeah. Just to
well, Battle, I guess you're gonna have to take care of that little issue, man. But hold on, give me 1 second here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. My bad about that.
Well, are you guys having issues? Are you guys having issues hearing me?
No, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Yeah,
all right. But
I'm pretty sure it wasn't you, Dan. It was probably me.
I respect everybody's opinions here and their insight. I mean, what's up? Smoke?
No, that's Battle. Right. He was talking. I think he's trying to finish.
But you hear us?
Yeah, I think Battle was talking, right?
Yeah, I know what it is. It's just that I'm so heavily delayed that I just can't.
This is why we got to get the fight, because...
Oh, there's a delay.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Battle. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna come out and I'll come back in because it's basically every time I talk.
Battle, you know what? I think what it is that you have many. No, I was gonna say though. Okay.
I'll come back here.
Battle, here's the thing. I think you got too many devices hooked up to your Wi-Fi, so you may have to deactivate one of those devices so you have a better connection. So that's probably what your issue is. All right, do that. All right, man. All right, but it's really heated now, so. Darkheart, look, shout out to Darkheart. I ain't spoke to him in a long time. He says that Crawford has a longer reach. and he was out jabbed by a weight drain Kell Brook. In the first 3 rounds, his eyes were swelling. You do think that Spence jab won't be effective? No, I'm not saying he won't have an effective jab. I just think that Errol Spence is going to figure Crawford out. I'm sorry, Errol Spence. Terrence Crawford is going to figure him out, and that's the thing about Terrence. It takes him good 2 or 3 rounds to figure out his opponent, and he knows what to do. He knows how to fight them now by seeing the angles that they throw their punches and how they move and whatnot, and that's when he neutralizes you. That's what he's very good at.
And on top of that,
it definitely is an intriguing fight, man. We got to get that fight next, man. But
what I was going to say to that, Dan, is, and on top of that, though, Kell Brook's thing is timing. So I said Kell Brook's thing is timing. So of course he's gonna. That's his specialty. So he's going to be better at that than Terence Crawford. If you watch the aftermath of that fight, Terence Crawford said, he said from what he figured out in the first 2 rounds, he said he thought potentially it was going to be a long night because all Kell Brook wanted to do was counter him. So it's when Kell Brook came in for the first punch, that's when Terence Crawford countered him and then he got hurt. Do you understand? So if you know Kell Brook, his thing is to time you coming in. It's to time you. So of course, Terence Crawford was trying to force the pace in the first 2 rounds. He was going to get timed, and it's not like Kell Brook is a rubbish fighter. If we're being honest, he was beating Errol Spence up until his eye went. If we're being really honest.
If you're looking at the judges' scorecards, then that's not what it had. True. Like I'm not a dishonest guy when it comes to this stuff. I just like fights. And I'm just looking at it from what I'm seeing. What I saw wasn't a timing issue. I mean, like the timing was there, but the issue that I saw was the size and the size and the reach was the issue, right? I mean, it was well timed and all this stuff, but I think Kell Brook has a really good jab, but Errol Spence also has a really good jab. Both of those guys in that fight, those guys were thumping. It wasn't like Kell Brook was doing well, but it's not like he was washing Errol Spence in that fight. And it wasn't even before the eye went away. Like there was a really ebb and flow back and forth. They were exchanging rounds, really. And neither one of them was getting like all three judges going their way. It was like 2 judges said it, gave it to one guy, one judge.
What I would say to that is the first 4 rounds. The first 4 rounds. Yeah, what I was going to say was the first 4 rounds, I had Kell Brook winning, and then to me, the weight played a factor.
Yeah, but that's just you, right? That doesn't mean that that's actually what happened. Mm-hmm. You may have given it to Kell Brook. I'm just saying that all 4 of those rounds were competitive rounds, and the judges couldn't agree with each other.
Can y'all hear me better now, or am I still delayed? Me personally, Errol keeps himself composed. He doesn't.
Fair enough. But I mean, look, it's an argument that Kell Brook was winning the first 4 rounds of that fight. It's an argument there. Not saying it's definite. It's an argument, but he did give Errol Spence a tough time in that first 4 or 5 rounds. He was hitting him with some big body shots. I mean, it's some big power shots, whatnot. And whatnot. It took a while for Spence to figure him out and adjust in that fight to wear down Kell Brook. But the thing is too is that what I do see is that Spence is very effective with guys who are stationary targets. But when it does a mover like Crawford, that right there is going to be a problem because we haven't seen
Crawford
fight a guy who's a mover like that.
When have we seen Crawford as a mover at 147? Like I think he's a mover at 140, but not like.
But he was a mover. He was a mover when he fought Jeff Horn.
Yeah, the last time I saw him being a mover was like Victor Postal.
Jeff Horn. He was a mover in Jeff Horn fight.
I mean, he was slightly moving, but it's not like he was using that much lateral movement.
Yeah, of course. Like the most amount.
Well,
honestly, I'm pretty sure
against Kabalaskas.
I'm just saying, if that's the level of movement that we expect to see, Errol Spence is way better at cutting off the ring for that.
Here's the thing, though. Get this smoke. It's not that I just If we're being completely honest, the most movement I think Terence Crawford has ever done in a fight is when he fought John Molina. But he doesn't normally do that. That was John Molina. I mean, he just kind of was. He probably was trying to buy this time just to give a show. If as far as what the fight entails with Crawford's footwork, I don't think Errol will be able to so easily be able to smother his own punches and to get inside because that's not really how Crawford's fight. He's not going to let you. He's not okay. How do I put this? You know how some fighters will, in a sense, almost they'll give you an option to hit so they can counter you. Like sometimes you will actually see purposely Canelo back up to the ropes and sometimes invite you in for a jab so he can come back and counter. Like we don't see Crawford do. Okay, he does that, but he doesn't give you an option to hit. If you get what I'm saying, he gives you an option to usually. He doesn't like to catch and shoot as much. His option is usually to let the punch fall short and come back, or sometimes he rolls. So I don't think Errol Spence is going to do that. Like it's just it doesn't make sense for Errol Spence to in a sense try to outpick Crawford from afar. So if he tries to come in and then get Crawford from up close, why would Crawford respond any way other than responding with a counter or clinching him and tying him up and then walking him backwards?
Right. I mean, that's what you would attempt to do, right? Like, but that's the issue is that how often are you going? How much success are you going to have doing that? Like Ugas tried to, he tried to clinch. He tried to clinch a bunch of times. He tried to hold him. Errol Spence wasn't having that, right? It's when you're talking about the bigger guy, right? The smaller guy, like muscling him, the odds of that are drop. Like I'm not saying that like Bud is not a strong dude and he's not able to do it. I'm just saying if that doesn't happen, then what is his plan B? Like a lot of this stuff is predicated on Bud being a powerful guy and Bud being a strong
wasn't
guy.
This argument? Wasn't this
right?
Yeah.
So like,
but wasn't this argument made when he first fought Sean Porter?
Yeah, and
I mean,
I think
that was the argument that
Porter,
we're using.
and that's my point.
Like,
and Sean Porter had a ton of success in that fight, even without a jab. He was like leaping in and all this stuff, and Sean Porter was still winning rounds. And Sean Porter doesn't throw anywhere near with the same amount. Let me finish. Hold up. Let me finish my point. Hold up. I'm almost done.
Hold up, Dwayne. Let's finish. Let's finish.
Let me finish my point. Sean Porter does not throw nearly the amount of shots, and they don't hurt as much. Right? Like Sean Porter's knockout ratio is atrocious. That dude is always on his feet, doesn't sit down on anything. And his shot selection sucks, and so does his accuracy. Like Sean Porter is like the wrong. Like if Errol Spence we saw last night fought the Bud Crawford that Sean Porter fought, then this would be like it's academic. Like there's nothing like Terrence Crawford was able to do in that fight was keep Sean Porter at length with his jab. That ain't happening with Errol. There's no way that's it. Like we're not gonna see that. Like
I don't think that's true. Here's the thing. I don't think that's true. This smoke. It's not going to be so much of the fact that it's a battle. Let Dwayne get it. Wait, hold up, battle. Hold up, battle. Hold up. Let Dwayne get it, and then you can get it after Dwayne. Go ahead. I've been quiet already. Is it a delay?
Yeah, it might be a delay.
I was quiet for like.
There's a delay. Yeah, Dwayne's turn.
Yeah,
go ahead,
but
Dwayne.
this is what I'm saying. I'm saying if you look at everybody that's fought Sean Porter, in some sense of a way, he's made them look bad. With Terrence Crawford, with me, compared to Errol Spence, is one thing that they both have is Errol Spence is not going to sit there and bang away to the body like he did with Ugas, and Terrence Crawford's just going to sit there and do nothing. Terrence Crawford's the type, if you land a punch on me, I want to land one back. I want to get you back. And that's how Errol Spence fights as well. So at some point, you can't just say, oh, he's going to hold him and try to wrestle him or whatever. Because the way Terrence Crawford fights is, if you land a good shot on him, he wants to get you back straight away. Yep. And that's how Errol Spence fight. When Errol Spence... And another thing that people are forgetting was before the mouthpiece came out yesterday with Ugas, he got hurt before that.
Yeah,
he got hurt before that, where he did something where he leaned back like his legs were gone, and then Ugas hit him with the uppercut. Then the mouthpiece fell out. But there was I think it was like 10 or 15 seconds before that he got hit, and I was like, oh my! And everyone was like, because I was watching it on the Fox coverage, and they were like, oh, Errol Spence is hurt. This was before the mouthpiece even came out, and I was thinking, what? I don't know if you saw that, Dan, but that's what I saw.
I did. I saw that too, but obviously it was the uppercut that did him in that fifth round, and then he landed that 1-2, and that really had him on the rope. So you could have called that a knockdown, but that's where Ugas should have jumped on him right there. But
and still, even still after that, we saw Errol go right back to work. can miss the whooping his ass.
Yeah.
Like it was just kind of like
Yeah.
even like the ref gave Ugas a chance to capitalize on what just happened, right? I think he missed out on calling it a knockdown, but that still would have given Spence recovery time. So even if he called it, that would have given
That's
a
true.
round to Ugas, but it
Yeah.
still would have given Spence time to recover. So the mouthpiece thing becomes a moot issue because like right after that recovery time, what we saw was Errol Spence go back to work. We didn't see him on shaky legs. We didn't see him like, buzz or anything. We just saw him going right back to his pedestrian workman-like rate. Like, but I agree with you with the he doesn't fight like Ugas. He's not just looking for the perfect shot. He's not just going to shell up and wait for Spence to stop throwing. He's going to throw with him. And I don't know. Like that's what I'm saying. Like unless Crawford can actually hurt Errol Spence, right? Unless he does it in these things. If Errol is able to eat shots the way we see Errol eat shots, then Bud is in for a world of hurt. Because I think people are banking on the fact that Terrence Crawford has been knocking all these dudes out, so he's a power puncher, and that may not be the case when it comes to Errol Spence.
Yeah. Hey, what's up? It's up to Dark Horse again. He said Crawford got dropped by Oscars. Enough said. I'm like, well, yeah, technically he did, but so did Spence. Spence got dropped by Ugas, but that wasn't ruled a knockdown, right? Same thing.
Yeah, it's not really the same thing. It's not really the same thing because Errol Spence turned his back in a mental lapse. It's not like they were fighting and all of a sudden,
that's his fault.
Ugas caught him. Yeah, that's his fault. I'm saying it's his fault, but it also speaks to his punch resistance. If he's getting hit with punches he can't see, a straight 1-2, and it didn't really affect even the outcome of the round. Like from his work, from his work rate. We could have said
I know there's a bit of a difference between the. Well, yeah, I get what you're saying, but there's a difference there's a slight difference between the two situations. But the fact is, both guys got knocked down without it being officially ruled a knockdown. So
right,
if you want to keep it a buck, keep it on both playing fields.
But
I'm
not
just saying.
so much. I don't think that you could say the two things are related. When one guy they're toe to toe, and you're fighting a guy versus one guy turned around to get his mouthpiece and then got clocked with his back turned. Like,
well, like I said, though, there's a difference there. But the thing is, my point is, I get what you're saying.
The difference is one guy's glove touched the ground, and another one we feel like the ropes held him up. I do. I mean, I agree with you. I feel like the ropes held him up, but it's not like he dropped. Right? It was like the momentum of the shot.
Well,
like,
knockdown was a knockdown.
Cool. I didn't see it.
Yeah,
but
if we're being honest,
all right. So all right. So if the ring was longer, right? Let's say that happened on the other end of the ring. Would he have went down? Maybe not.
Well, I'm just saying though. The point is that it would be ruled a knockdown in certain circumstances. But I would say this though.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. In fact, though, we all know that Ugas can't really punch like that, though. If we're being
honest, Ugas can't punch like that.
You know what I mean?
I mean, how do we know that?
He can't even really punch like that.
It says who? Who says he can't punch like he's?
Well, you got what? He's got 12 knockouts in how many fights?
32 fights.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I honestly, me and get this smoke argue all the time.
I mean, look at the guys he's fighting.
Me and get this smoke argue all the time about power. He doesn't believe Lennox Lewis is a power puncher. I know we had that long conversation.
What are you saying? I don't believe Lennox Lewis is a power puncher. Of course, Lennox Lewis has a power puncher.
You really don't remember that long debate we had. But okay, never mind.
Listen, I think we're talking about relative power, not whether or not he has power. If you're talking about does he have more power than Foreman, that's a different conversation than he doesn't have power at all, right?
No. Okay, fine. Let's put it like this. You say that if he can, let's put it like this. You said that if Errol Spence has more punch resistance than we normally see, it's probably a long night for Crawford, but when do we really see Errol Spence eat?
Too much noise in the background, man.
Hey, Battle, man, you sound like you're at a festival or something, bro. Red.
Yeah, you got.
Hold on.
I know some people in the background, but yeah, just keep that minimal, man. Go to a quiet place somewhere, man, if you can. But
bro, like that's what I'm saying. Like to me, we all know Ugas didn't even have power like that. Look how many times he clocked Manny Pacquiao jumping in. Didn't even hurt him. As soon as Manny Pacquiao jumped in against Juan Marquez, he went sleep. You know what I mean?
Okay, here's the thing. Like all the guys that we're talking
don't talk about Pacquiao like that.
All the guys we're saying that Terrence Crawford, like we're getting Terrence Crawford's power off of, these guys have been knocked out by guys who can't punch.
Wait,
Who don't
say
really
that
have a
again?
whole lot of power.
What are you
Like
talking about?
Danny Garcia
Terrence
knocked
Crawford?
out Amir Khan, also couldn't knock out Errol Spence. Like just because you can knock
Yeah,
out
but
that
Danny
guy doesn't
Garcia's
mean
a
you knock
one.
out.
But
Hold
Danny
up. He doesn't
Garcia
have
is
the
one.
skills to
Wait,
knock
one
out.
at a time, guys. One at a time.
Hold on, I'm not letting you get away with that. I'm not getting away with
I'm
that.
not done yet.
Because
You can
because if
respond
you
to
look
it.
at
Like,
if
I'm
you
not
look
done
at
with
if
my
you look
point.
at
Hey, Dwayne, let him go.
Listen,
Wait, hold
Dwayne.
up, guys. Hold
I
up,
got it.
guys. Hold up.
Yeah.
Hey, hold up. Let's finish this point. To Dwayne, you can respond. But
okay,
go
go
ahead,
on.
Smoke. Finish your
Yeah, this is
point.
not like triggered and then jump in. Like, yo, like
It's
Jeff
because
Horn.
it's delayed. It's delayed. That's why.
Bro, I'm still
Okay.
talking, bro. I
Is it
can't
delay
hear
response?
you.
Okay. Go
Yeah,
ahead. But let's Smoke finish
yeah.
his point. Go ahead, Smoke. Finish your point.
Yeah, so Jeff Horn got stopped by some dude for an oceanic title, right? Like Amir Khan's been stopped how many times? Green Machine's got stopped by a glorified prospect. Terrence, Porter has never been stopped. That's a fact. But his dad said he threw in the towel because he didn't like the way the dude trained. He wasn't dedicated going into the fight. That's why he threw in the towel. Like, it's not like Sean Porter was like knocked out and sleep on his feet or anything like that. Like, all of these are like ref stoppages, really. Like even Amir Glass, I guess it's glass thigh because he didn't even get hit in the jaw when they stopped that one. He got hit in his like upper thigh. Like, and even all of these things, all of these stoppages feature guys still on their feet. Even Jeff Horn, even one leg Benavidez, like all of them. But for some reason, this is getting translated to Terrence Crawford is a power puncher. I mean, and that's fine. I'm not I'm a Bud fan. I like the guy a lot. I'm just saying that like the Kell Brooks of the world has been stopped a few times. He's a damaged guy. Like, and he was on his feet. Like, Errol may be able to take these shots. And if Errol can take these shots,
Yeah.
what is the next thing?
Fair enough. But can I say something, Smoke, real quickly before Dwayne gets in? But it seems like I'm not saying you. Hopefully, you're not trying to rip away Bud's win over Brook, because as I recall, Spence beat up a bad Brook coming off a loss against Golovkin.
Sure, and I would take that, right? Right. So that's what I'm telling you. So he already.
Okay.
So Spence fought a one broken face.
Yeah, he was stopped.
With Brook, right?
Yeah.
And then Bud fought a two broken face Kell Brook, who hadn't been in the division for years.
That's fair enough. But go ahead, Dwayne. You want to
No,
respond?
but what I was saying,
mean-
but what I'm saying is, if you really look at it, all their fights are like that. Errol Spence didn't really stop Lamont Peterson out cold, and Lamont Peterson's a 140 fighter. If we're being real, you know what I mean? Like all these guys that they're fighting, Danny Garcia's a 140 fighter. He can't carry the power that he had at 140 is not the same that he has at 147. Sean Porter's another one. You know what I'm saying? So okay, yeah, but if you look at it, both of them are stop fighters the same way. So this is what I'm saying. I'm saying if you look at Errol Spence, who's come from 130, who came from Errol Spence, who came from 135, and he's come up.
You mean Bud,
Bud has come from 135. For him to be beating people the way Errol Spence is, and Errol Spence is a bigger man, shows that Terrence Crawford must have some sort of power to say, for all these bigger guys that he's fighting, to not jump in on him. That's what I'm saying. Like
Also, can I say something? Oh, go ahead.
No, let Dwayne finish. Go ahead.
No, you can go.
Oh, go ahead, Battle. Go ahead.
Well, also, I don't know if that's really a good claim to use, get this smoke, because, yeah, technically Crawford has been stopping a lot of people on his feet, but, I mean, come on, okay, we really be honest, we could bring up Mike Garcia all day. Like, it's just, the fact of the matter is, because you're looking at the welterweight division as it is now, he probably has the most claim to the power puncher of the division. Unless you talk about Ennis, and Ennis hasn't really proven it against those top caliber guys yet. So he probably is the best case you can use. Errol Spence throws a lot more punches than Crawford. So the fact of the matter is, if he gets knocked out, it's probably attributed to more punches than actually punching power, or a power puncher in the way you described it.
Well, really, my only point is, it seems like there's a lot of stock being put in Terrence Crawford being able to hurt Errol Spence, right? Like that's
it's overrated, basically.
Like that, right? Like I'm saying, like if he is not able to hurt Errol Spence to the point where he's going to win the fight, what is his plan B then? I don't see him out.
I can tell you.
Battle. Hold on a second.
I'm sorry, my bad. I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
I hear you. My point is, I don't see him being able to outwork Errol Spence. It was like if he was that like Muhammad Ali, lateral movement guy that we saw him versus the postal fight, if he was fighting like that at 147, I'd be like, okay, now even though Errol is an excellent guy to cut off the ring, now you got a guy with a longer reach and maybe faster feet, like somewhat faster feet. Now I'm thinking, okay, cool. But at this point, all I'm seeing is basically a pocket fight and a guy who, like, I'm saying that what I see from Terrence Crawford is his best stance is from the southpaw, and his strong hand is the right hand. So whatever he's doing, whether it's orthodox or southpaw stance, it's the right hand doing the damage. So like if he does a check hook from the left hand, from the southpaw stance, it's his right hand knocking him out. Right. So really, it's a one-handed guy, a one-handed fighter that he moves in different positions. Right. But he's essentially a pocket fighter. Is he going to hurt? If he's going to hit Errol Spence? Sure. If Errol Spence doesn't go down, then what? Because he does not throw enough shots.
I can tell you what he can do. Get this smoke. If he's not going to hurt him, all he has to really not all he has to do. What he has to really do as his second option is frustrate Spence to the point of the matter is Spence gets more reckless to where he has to make more mistakes. You're not going to technically hurt the guy, but yeah, you will put him on the fact that he will be willing to make more mistakes because he knows he's not getting the eye-catching punches, which he still can do. Like it's not going to be a fight where both guys are going to be completely outside throwing these picture-perfect punches on each other. It's going to be a lot of wrestling, a lot of hitting holds, a lot of punching after the break. There's going to be a lot of times where the referee has to step in and say, hey, you guys keep it clean, keep it clean, keep it clean. Keep it clean. That if Crawford can stall as best as he can while getting those best counter shots off, he still can win. I'm not one of those people that's just so caught on the fact that Crawford just going to just put him in a body bag and then like send him out of the theater. I think he's going to beat him decisively. I think if anything, he's going to knock him out, but not really like. How do I put this? It's not going to be
I think that everybody's picking Bud by stoppage because I don't think they really see a path for Bud by points. And I don't see a path by Bud by points. I think that Bud would have to stop him also. Like, I don't, we're talking about Bud having a puncher's chance for real. That's really what we're talking about.
But Bud takes rounds off, honestly. It's not the fact that I don't think he can do it if he's really motivated. Okay. He likes to fight in a sense where he's almost looking for it. Like he likes to wait his opponents out sometimes. Where if he's going to be taking those rounds off, then I don't really see any way he could beat him other than stoppages. So that's the reason I put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that'd be yet to be told at this point. So let's just hope that we can get that fight next. But it doesn't look like it. From the looks of it, it may not happen because Steven Espinoza kind of threw the cat out of the bag on the Daniel Kinahan situation. He issued a warning to anybody that's doing business or being represented by MTK or Dan Kinahan. We're not doing business with you. We don't care if you're Terrence Crawford. We don't care if you're Tyson Fury. We're not doing business with you. So let's just hope that Crawford is cutting ties with Daniel Kinahan. But I don't want to get into that. I know this is a sensitive topic, but it's public anyway. We all know that the U.S. government has sanctioned Daniel Kinahan and his operation. So I don't know what you guys' insight on that. I know it's kind of political to some extent, but many people are arguing that, it's like, well, how could the U.S. government sanction Kinahan and he has been charged with the crime, or he hasn't been prosecuted for a crime, he hasn't been convicted of anything? Well, yeah, it's funny people say that because Frankie Garber was also a mobster who was never prosecuted for a crime before he was brought in. Same thing with El Chapo. So I don't know where that logic's coming from, but anyhow, what do you guys think about the situation? You think this is going to be a big blow to boxing if Kinahan is being cut out here? Because it seems to me that he's like the biggest financier when it comes to staging events around the globe when it comes to boxing. What do you think, guys? Anybody can jump in.
Well, they're saying that he's not a part of MTK. They've been talking about like distancing themselves from him this entire time. I thought that like Bomac was his manager. I feel like they can get like a fight done without this guy, right? Like I don't think that they Kinahan or MTK or whatever subsidiary group, company he may be a part of. I don't think they would be instrumental in putting this fight together. Like I don't know. It just seems like I mean, maybe Bomac can't do it, and maybe I'm putting too much stock in him. And they may need some outside person to do it, but I don't know. Once the State Department fingers you, you become radioactive. Especially like in the United States, like those are problems you don't want. Especially in a sport like boxing, where it is unusual, right? Like the contracts don't show up until after the fight happened and stuff, and people are getting paid all kinds of crazy. Like the last thing you want is like the state auditing your books and all that stuff. Like even if you're on the up and up and you've crossed your T's and dotted your I's, you still don't want the state in your books.
Yeah, it's funny though you mentioned that because it seems like Bob Arum kind of realized that this is a very serious issue, especially you have a country that sanctions you as an individual, let alone a country or a business. But he realizes now how bad this is because now he's pretty much spilling the beans on Daniel Kinahan and the way he operates. In the latest interview he gave to Kevin Iole with Yahoo Sports, he mentioned in the terms that Kinahan is a bully. I paid him like $4 to $6 million for his services for advising Tyson Fury in his fights with Deontay Wilder, Otto Wallin, and Tom Schwartz. And he also mentioned that Kinahan, they've had conversations where Kinahan has openly admitted that he's done some bad things in his life. He's trying so hard to become a legitimate businessman, but he also found out there's also indication that Daniel Kinahan is still involved in nefarious activities that made us realize that we can't associate ourselves with this guy any longer. Well, I'm not sure that's telling to me, but I don't know what you guys think about that. That shows to me that Bob Arum is kind of giving up the goods on Kinahan, realizing that he don't want those problems, especially if you have a country that sanctions an individual that you have connections to. Because they've warned you that pretty much if we find out you're doing business with this guy, you're criminally liable. I think Bob Arum is trying to wash his hands from this because they've had many investigations of Top Rank before, so by the government. So what are your thoughts on that?
Bob Arum is always turning states for evidence. Like he is totally the guy who's willing to do all the dirt and then tell on everybody so that he can skate out the back door.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That's him. That's him to a T. IBF dude's going to jail. Who's the chief witness? Bob Arum. Sure, I gave him $100K to get my guy in there. Jay Prince, Floyd Mayweather getting out of the Top Rank conversation. Oh yeah, that Jay Prince. They told me he was a serious guy, so I put the $600K in a paper bag, and he's got to make it look like he's the guy taking the high road, and he has the moral high ground, and all of these, he has no choice but to deal with petty criminals, and he's always breaking off these petty criminals that are in his pocket. Meanwhile, he knows full well what's going on, and he's probably one of the dirtiest guys in the business. Like really, I feel like that's awfully convenient for Bob Arum. But he's always in a position to know, though. I will put that for him. He always is in a position to know exactly how dirty a guy is as soon as the cameras come looking.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny though, because some guys, I've seen some guys, I'm not going to name them out of respect, but I've seen some guys on here on the YouTube sphere, and they're saying that, this is nothing's going to happen to Kinahan. This is a non-issue, yada, yada, yada. See, what these guys don't get is that this is not a this is not a UK Ireland internal investigation by them because they're relatively small. They don't have that much influence or power. That's not that type of situation. This is the U.S. getting involved. When they fucking get involved and when they put sanctions on you, when they freezing your assets, then that is something you need to really worry about. That is serious stuff. You cannot get around that situation. Daniel Kinahan may have $1 billion empire, but when you have a country like the U.S. that's after your ass, and they in fact, they put a fucking warrant out for your arrest, a bounty on you, then that is a serious issue. That's something you can't get away from. So, to me, that's indication that they're going to cripple Kinahan. They're going to cripple him in his finances, and it may take another year or two because at some point he's going to run out of options. What he's going to do? He can't leave Dubai. I don't think he intends to leave in Dubai, but eventually they're going to get him. They're going to get him out of Dubai, and they're going to extradite him. I'm not sure where he's going to go, but it looks like Ireland's going to get a crack at him first, and then he'll go to the U.S. for trial. Then after the U.S. gets at him, then Spain might get him. Then Colombia might want him. So he's wanted in 5 different countries. So, this is a serious issue, particularly for Tyson Fury. And this is like the worst time, too, for him because his fight with Dillian White is next week. So, do you think this is going to have an effect with Tyson Fury mentally going into this fight with Dillian?
Nah, I don't think so. I feel like it's more of an in-house affair, and they know more about like the BBOC. Wait a minute, this is taking place in England, right? The fight,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah. It seems to me that England is one of those places that is like insulated when their boxing market, right? They don't really need a whole lot of help to put on a fight.
right.
So yeah, I think that they can figure this out. There's enough loopholes that Tyson Fury cannot have a BBOC license and still fight. And Dylan White is there. They're doing the fight. Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect it, but I do feel like it's going to affect Daniel Kinahan and his American operations, right? Like whatever fights he's got going on here, no one's going to really be trying to, fight the federal government for like a boxing match kind of thing. Like, it's just, I don't see the percentages. And yeah, once you have a state sanctioned manhunt, you have problems. And if it's a United States putting sanctions on you, like, that's how apartheid ended. Like, you gotta, like if he can withstand it, sure. But they're looking for this dude. They want him to stand tall before the man. Period.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, my thing is too. I'm not going to stay too long on this issue, but my thing is that once the U.S. Announces preliminary sanctions, there are going to be more to come. Watch, I guarantee it. There are going to be more sanctions to come. And by the way, somebody's going to flip on Kinahan. That's going to happen. Who that person may be, I don't know. But I will say this though: I'm not trying to spread any rumors, but this is the reality of it. What makes you think that Tyson Fury is not the person of interest here? I think he is, because I think that's a guy they're going to look at and they're going to talk to. Now, what makes you think they haven't wiretapped any of their conversations they had between Fury and Kinahan with the other associates? And for those guys to say that, oh, well, Kinahan hasn't been charged for anything, he doesn't have a criminal record, he's never went to jail for anything, they explain to me, why does he have 20 plus associates that are already serving prison terms for the crimes they committed? Why is that? It was part of his organization. Why is that? So what does that tell you? But, that's just my thoughts on the whole situation, man. I just wanted to throw that out there. But, yeah, anyways, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. I don't think I have anything else to cover. But I just want to say thank you for coming on, Spoke. Thank you for coming on, Battle, and Dwayne. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
I'm in the chat, but sometimes I can't get on the panel. I catch you late and all this stuff because you don't have a set time. You come in when you come in. And, yeah, man, I love talking boxing with you. Like,
Oh, absolutely, man, absolutely. But yeah, I'll try my best to be consistent here. But I got a lot of things, priorities going on outside the sphere that that got to be taken care of. So, yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. I really appreciate it. And I want to give a shout out to the chat, everybody that's coming in. I don't know if I'm gonna name everybody like I normally do, but a shout out to everyone that came in the chat. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna go ahead and end this live stream. Until then, we are out. Peace.